You can now automate your entire Instagram using Claude Code. In this video, we will see in detail how to do this for a news agency. So let's get started. And now let's first understand what is the automation that we are trying to build. So I have this in Excel draw. Let's just take a look at the steps one by one and let's get deep into that. So the first step would be to find trending topics that invite an opinion. For this, we would do a web search, uh, sources like X, Reddit, Google Trends, and a host of sources that you would like to have it customized according to your understanding of the space and so on. And we would wrap all these sources in the skill trending topics. So what we will do is to find trending topics, we would create a skill, and in that we would mention that in order to find trending topics, search the web for XYZ sources and go on. Another thing to note here is because Claude Code can spawn sub-agents, so sub-agents essentially mean that when you are doing a web search, you can do it in parallel. So Twitter can be searched, Reddit can be searched, all can be done in one go rather than doing it sequentially. And this is an ability which is present with Claude Code. It can spawn sub-agents. Now, once you are able to find trending topics that invite an opinion, you would go for script generation. Now, simply for script generation, you would create a skill wherein you can define how you would like, let's say Claude. I personally prefer Claude to generate scripts. So you would just have a system prompt how to generate a script in your particular niche. For example, let's say you find a trending topic. The first goal would be to explain to the viewer what the fundamental issue is there, then bring in all sides of the argument, and finally you would try to give or insert your own opinion into that particular script. So essentially you can create a skill for this, and while executing this automation, Claude Code would pick up the skill on its own. Now once the script is generated, the initial version which has been generated by Claude would be given to you uh, in your preferred medium. It may be Slack, Notion, or Google Docs, or Gmail, and any other WhatsApp and any other sources. And at this point, what you would do is you would reply or you would add your own insight to that script that has been generated by Claude, and it would get resent to Claude for creating a final script. Now this would be a loop process wherein Claude will take another pass at the script and then again pass it on to you. You would again suggest any changes or approve it, and then once this process is completed wherein you have got a finalized script, then this loop would end. Now once you have your script, the next thing would be to generate a voice. So for that you would use 11 labs. Now in 11 labs you can have your own clone or you can use any predetermined voices. Now one thing to note here is that the output for 11 labs is dependent on the kind of prompting that you give to it. So for example, if you have a script and in that you have certain kind of punctuation marks, and depending on the model you are using in 11 labs, so you can go to their website and you can search. Let's say 11 labs turbo would have its own specific guidelines for the script, so you can kind of consolidate all of that in a skill for 11 labs. So how this would help is whenever your final script is ready and you are sending it to 11 labs for generation, what this skill would do is it would convert the script into the format that 11 labs would generate a better voice. In this skill you can also have preferences for the 11 labs model that you want to choose, and according to that you can have different conditions that a certain type of script should be in certain kind of model. Let's say you prefer Hindi for some scripts, for some scripts you prefer English, for some scripts you would prefer English, and so on. According to that you can kind of consolidate this into the 11 labs skill. For details, what you can do is you can go to the 11 labs website and you would see that they have clearly specified that this model is best for this language and this is how you should kind of frame your script for this model. So all these guidelines would be kind of cultivated in this skill, so that the input that you are giving to 11 labs is good enough to generate a proper voice that can be used for your video avatar. Now you have your script, now you have generated your voice. Finally, you would give it to your avatar, which has been already created in Hagen. You can use other software as well, whichever you prefer. I personally prefer Hagen. Now, one thing to note here is that again in Hagen, now one thing to note here is that you can also skip this process of generating voice. You can directly pass on the script as input to Hagen, and it will use Hagen's own native capabilities to generate your voice. If you find the output to be good enough, then you can go this route, or you can also use this route. I have seen that it is generally better to go with this route, wherein you are kind of generating your voice in 11 labs and then passing it out to Hagen, but you can directly go there as well. Now you would also have here the skill for Hagen. What the skill would do is essentially you can define for what kind of news you want, what kind of avatar. Let's say it is a science and tech video, so you would want an avatar that is dressed appropriately for that particular, let's say you are wearing spectacles and so on. If it's an entertainment news, you would want a different avatar and so on. All this you can define in this Hagen skill. Obviously, you will need to connect your Hagen account through the official Hagen MCP server. Essentially, you have connectors in Claude, so that takes care of itself. And finally, once this video is generated, it would be published to Instagram. Now, Instagram does not have an official MCP server, but you do have unofficial MCP servers for Instagram. And using that, you can kind of publish your reel on Instagram. Now, this is just a basic workflow. There are multiple steps which can be customized according to your need. For example, once your video is generated, you would also have an editor in this loop. The editor will receive the video, it will make edits, and it would be kind of this loop wherein after making the edits, you would review, you would give your feedback, and this loop will continue. And once that video is finalized, then it will be published to Instagram. Another thing to note is you have the skill for Instagram publishing as well. What the skill will do is it would have specific guidelines for the caption of your video. It would have specific guidelines for the thumbnail of your video and many more things that you can do. People to tag, hashtags in your video, and so on. So now we have gotten a broad overview of the automation that we are looking to build. Now let's get started in Claude Code to be able to build this automation. Now coming to the more interesting part, that is to set up this automation is Claude Code. So what we would do is we would open Claude Code in Visual Studio Code. We have already created this project, Instagram automation, and we'll start with pasting this prompt. This prompt will essentially set up our automation in Claude Code. So if you would see, it would wrap up all that we have discussed in Excalidraw, the steps for the Instagram automation. It will wrap it up in the Instagram automation skill, and it will also give the clear guideline. Because we are setting this up, we would make sure that it is clearly mentioned that Claude creates all the necessary skills wherein needed. So for example, the first step for trending topics, it should refer to this skill. In case it is not created, then it should create this skill with these guidelines. And this is how we would kind of set up this automation. So I'll give this prompt. Now you can access this prompt in the PDF file that I have attached in the description. We'll start setting this up. So if you look at it, it is creating all the necessary skills. On the left, you can see that it has created the Instagram automation skills, then the trending topic skill, and it is going on to create all the other skills that we need to refer in order to create an Instagram post according to our necessary guidelines. So it has also now created the script generation skill. So now the setup is completed. So it has created this structure. It has all the relevant skills, and it also has this environment file. For now, it does not contain the API key. You will need to fill this with relevant API keys, and then your automation will be set up. So let me do this at my end. And another thing that you can do at this stage is to ensure that, because this Instagram automation skill contains certain guidelines which have already been completed. For example, this skill referencing rule can now be modified. Actually, this skill referencing rule can be removed. This is all valid. So if you see now, the setup is now completed. We have all the relevant skills that are needed, and then they are wrapped up in the Instagram automation skill. Now, once the setup is complete, then you should open a new chat within Claude Code, because if you keep using the same chat, then the context window increases, and because of this, more and more tokens will be consumed. Now, once you go to a new chat, paste this prompt, create an Instagram post, and you would see that it would automatically be accessing the necessary skills and getting started with creating a post. So you see it has read skill.md, the Instagram reel automation pipeline, and the automation has now started. Now, if you see, it is finding trending topics, and it is doing this in parallel across websites. So it is fetching from the Indian Express, the Hindu, PIB, Times of India, all in parallel. So this is what spawning sub-agents in Claude Code means. The good thing with these kind of agentic automations are that they adapt to the situation. For example, this website is not working at the moment, so it would consider an alternative source on its own. So now you will see that 3 sources are blocked. So it has collected data from 7 sources. Now it would compile the score based on the complexity and virality, and then finally decide on a trending topic, and then use the script generation skill to generate the script. Now it has finalized on a topic, and now it is generating a draft script. Now you will see that it has created a draft script and set it on Notion. There are various status that I can set. For now, I'll set it as complete, so that when polling starts from Claude Code, it is able to proceed to the next step. Also, it has drafted an email for me to notify my journalist. Since I've sent that email, I'll just ask start polling. Now, now it sees that the status is marked complete. So it is moving on to the next step. So it will do a final script polish. Now, since we have given approval for the final script, it is now moving to 11 labs. It is following the required guidelines. It has selected the voice ID based on the focus area, and also it is making changes to the script, modifying it in order to generate a better speech in 11 labs. So it will add the necessary punctuations, etc., depending on the model. Now the voice has been generated in 11 labs. We can take a look at it. It is saved locally only, so we can hear it. So after listening to the voice, it works perfectly well, and we can move on to the next step, wherein we will fetch this voice to HeyGen, and then it will generate a complete video. So let's do that. So finally, it has tried creating a video in HeyGen, but since I do not have sufficient API credits, so it is not able to create one. But overall, that is the process. Once you have done a trial run of this process, just enter this prompt. Make sure that any learnings from this trial run are now included. What it will do is, it would now try to see all the issues that were faced during this trial run, and it will automatically incorporate them in the existing skills and the master skill, which is your trending Instagram automation skill. This will ensure that whenever you are running this task in future, there are no issues and it runs smoothly. So this automation is now live, and you can now automate your Instagram. Note that in order to make any changes to this, you would just update the necessary skill files instead of updating the master file. This is the structure we will follow across all automations, wherein we will divide each step into a relevant skill, and then we will have a master skill which would call the relevant skills when needed. If you want to create this automation at your end, you can read the attached PDF in the description. It details out the complete setup, all the prompts involved, all the skills involved. And if you want to stay updated on building such automations with Claude Code, then subscribe to my channel.